Welcome to the Primal Endurance Podcast, where we shake up the status quo of ineffective conventional endurance training. Enjoy an assortment of expert guests, where we cut to the chase and give you the unfiltered scoop on what it takes to go long, have fun, and stay healthy. And now, here's your host, Brad Kearns.
Welcome, listeners and viewers. We're on video here, YouTube, as well as the usual audio podcast with Debbie Potts.
Hello.
Excellent hostess herself of the Whole Athlete podcast. So go and subscribe to that.
Thank you for the plug.
I did one time. I stumbled upon it, and the guest lineup is tremendous, and the topics. It's big time.
Yeah.
It's big time. So we're so glad to have you on this show. And you're up to all kinds of good stuff.
It's funny. I'm doing always too much. I'm trying to write about not doing as much.
Simplify Your Life by Debbie Potts.
I have a book coming out called Life is Not a Race.
Life is Not a Race by Debbie Potts. When's your next race? Oh, you don't have a next race. Okay.
Which is no race right now. And then I have another book. See, again, doing too much. It's just like, got to practice what I preach. But a book of kind of the WHOLEistic Method is 8 topics in chapters of different things on nutrition, exercise, and putting all this information I've gotten from my own experience and well as people I podcast with, different people that have experts like Tim Noakes and Phil Maffetone and this man here and Mark Allen. I mean, there's all different chapters, and Rhonda Collier, lots on heart rate variability. So kind of put it all together because there's so much great information we have on our podcast. So it's nice to put it into a book. Really.
Let's do sneak preview, and can you give me the eight sections there?
Yeah. So the WHOLEistic Method, there's a chapter on each, and there's kind of an overview of how we want to improve the whole person from the inside out to perform better in life and sports. But going into nutrition, I originally wrote this book that was a manual 7 years ago. It was a 21-day sugar detox, and then it got to be a sugar detox and reset. And I hate the word sugar detox, but it became a program that I started with naturopaths over years. And I can't just teach people how to cut out, dairy and corn and soy and peanuts and grains and sugar for 21 days. I need to teach them more. So, what we started doing on my podcast is we always talk about metabolic efficiency with our Fit, Fat, Fast podcast and eating more fat and going low carb. Well, there's so much more to that than nutrition, to go into more the sleep and the stress, which is a big part.
So we got nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress.
Nutrition, exercise, stress, sleep, movement, hydration, gut health, and happiness.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So I dive into each topic for a chapter, and some are the digestion one got a little bigger. Cause I gotta add this, gotta add that. And then you interview people on thyroid health, and Dr. Josh Axe talks about all this stuff, gut health. And there's so much to put in there. So I had to kind of stop. My editor's going to hate me after a while. I'm like, can you add this information in there? So it's just kind of putting all that information in together. It's a good resource manual that I'll have with people in an online coaching program, coaching people.
What are some of the things that are disrespected in the athletic community in terms of, you have this WHOLEistic method, WHOLEistic method. And it seems like, we're obsessed with diet and exercise, and we're all into that, and we're trying all the diets, and we're trying the fasting, and we're trying the low carb, and we're measuring our carbs and peeing on ketone sticks and all that. And then with the training, of course, we have all the biofeedback tools and all this. But that's only 2/8 of the deal.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's what started the podcast. The first point with John Smith, the original co-host of Fit, Fat, Fast, was about, let's get rid of having these goos an hour that you always talk about too, and having gels and having, cashews instead, or I was doing UCAN, and, just changing the way we train and fuel, and training and fuel for race day, and getting rid of all those myths out there. And Bob Seebehor, have you heard of him? USA Triathlon, he does metabolic efficiency training. I took his certification course too. I was like to do every course.
This is testing your utilization of different fuels and trying to get more fat adapted, burn more fat than carbs.
To be fat adapted and teach you how to use fat for fuel. So I talk about that in my book. It's part of the section on nutrition for exercise for athletes. And I think it's what I've done when I took a USA triathlon certification. 2009 is when I first listened to him, Bob Seaboard, speak about having gels. And it's funny because USA Triathlon, you have this 3-day seminar and you have different people speak. Well, we had, everyone's saying the traditional methods of having gels and have this many calories an hour. You do this, do that, all the stuff that mainstream media tells us and all the magazines. And then you have a seminar with Bob who's like, gels, garbage, this is crap, bars, and all these drink mixes. And I'm like, you know what? That kind of makes sense. I think he's on to something. So I started, I wrote that a chapter in my Life is Not a Race book. I went like, you know what? I'm going to see how much I can burn fat. And I just would go for a bike ride without taking anything. And it didn't work too well the first time. You can't do that. But I started not having gels, and I had box of them because I'm in Hawaii. They'd give them out free, and you have these sponsors. And I had so much free stuff that I just started giving it away. It's like, I don't need this. And I used to throw up. It's really good at throwing up on a bike ride in Ironman to get all the stuff that was floating in my stomach because I was forcing it down. Because I started racing Ironmans 2001 and stopped in 2012. And, over the years, I think I tried so many different drink mixes and fueling strategies. And until the last few years of my career, that might be on hold, I don't know, that I would do UCAN and that worked great for me because it's a slow release carbohydrate fuel. So I would have that and have some different type of bars that were higher fat, and was amazing difference. But it's, not having all the gels and the bars and relying on that made a big difference.
What's going on when you're pounding that stuff, and why is that counterproductive?
Well, I thought it's counterproductive that we're training people. A lot of us, if you use heart rate mantra, I've used it since 20 years since Sally Edwards taught me how to do heart zone training when it first came out. And that was 20 years ago. And then Maffetone formula, Dr. Maffetone would have us do the 180 minus age, and Mark Allen used that too. Well, that's to train us to be burning more fat while we're exercising. So this is how it kind of, for me, started. That was an aha moment that here we're trying to train by heart rate where I can burn more fat and stay in these heart rate ranges that don't spike my heart rate up and go into anaerobic metabolism where I'm not burning fat. Because I used to do all the metabolic efficiency testing on the treadmill, so I could see all that some people. So I didn't understand. I'm like, well, if we're doing this, why should I also throw in sugar when I'm burning fat? But you always need something. You don't not always can't eat anything. But it was amazing how much little you need to eat when you're burning fat and keeping your heart rate in that right range, and not relying on having the blood sugar roller coaster.
Right. So we have, I think, two different paths going here. And if you're trying to get fat adapted, which has so many health benefits, forget about the performance benefits, but in terms of reducing excess body fat, avoiding chronic inflammation and these things that come from poor eating habits. So we're talking about eating a nutritious diet, a nutrient-dense diet that's higher in fat than the typical grain-based high-carb diet, but also training at that 180 minus age heart rate, because that's in a zone where you're burning predominantly fat because it's not so strenuous. But instead, what we see in this chronic training pattern are people that are training at too high a heart rate, eating too many carbohydrates in the daily diet, and also during their workouts because they need them because they're sugar burners. So to escape that requires like a comprehensive approach where you first got to slow down. Then you got to change your diet at breakfast and lunch as well as on the bike. But like you said, you can't just jump into it and leave your gels at home and go for your usual 50-mile bike ride. You're going to be
road having a nap like I did my first time.
Or punching for Uber,
Nowadays you can have Uber. It is a transition, but it's not just the way you train. So a lot of people, I coach people metabolic efficiency and would do the whole treadmill test when we could do it. And people would have here's your heart rate, where your RQ values, that ratio where you're still burning mostly fat. And then where is the anaerobic threshold? Where is the metabolic crossover point where your fat goes down, your carbohydrates go up? And it's so exciting to be able to test people on a treadmill when they're running or cycling, see that happen. But then they don't change the way they eat the rest of the day.
Right. So they're not progressing as they could had they been doing everything right. Let me ask you about that crossover point and why is that important?
Well, if you're training for endurance events, we're going for half Ironman, even a marathon, you're going for long duration time. So you can't sustain that a heart rate that's up high. You can't keep going for 3 hours when you'll hit that wall and be exhausted, right? And that you can't continue. But if you train in those ranges where your body's burning fat, you can go for hours and feel good and comfortable and still feel happy and not have a meltdown on the side of the road. But I think it's so much healthier for your body, as you said, and the inflammation and the recovery and all that. But race day, it's huge because you can go faster and still be burning fat.
So we have the aerobic maximum heart rate as promoted by Maffetone 180 minus age, and you can do a maximum aerobic function test and track your performance over, let's say, running 8 laps around the track or riding up a hill every time. What additional knowledge is helpful when you're doing this metabolic efficiency testing?
Well, sadly, the testing that we've used, the New Leaf got bought out by Lifetime Fitness. So our test is most people aren't able to test as easily anymore that had that testing cart. So now I would suggest using the Maffetone. But some places have it, like if you want to go to Denver, Colorado, or this place, Seattle, that you can do the metabolic cart, that you'll find out your ranges where you're burning the most fat and where to stay. So you can set more your training zones based on your metabolic efficiency. So where's your respiratory quotient is the ratio of your oxygen and carbon dioxide. So that basically tells you where you're burning fat, and when your number goes up higher, 0.85 is good fat burning fuel source, and you go into 1.0, that's where you're burning carbohydrates. So we can measure that on the test, and it's exciting to see. And then you can see your progress. So if I keep training at the 140 heart rate, for example, my pace gets faster. So I'd also look at, okay, here's what your pace is this time. Then you retest and you can see yourself getting faster. So without spending all that money on a test, somehow Phil Maffetone's formula, I've always done every test. I used to correlate, okay, what would the predicted one be? 180 minus age plus 5 or minus 5. Like, how did he ever figure that out? Do you ever hear how he did that, figured out?
Watching the people's gait. Yeah.
No, it's in the shower. He had this idea.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it's figuring that out, but it's a lot of it you can do ideally on a treadmill test and see what's individualized, where your ranges are and how you can improve that.
Let's back up to talk about how you kind of got enlightened on this journey to develop the WHOLEistic Method and your triathlon background, where you went on this crazy binge of Ironman racing and just full into the ultra endurance scene in various sports, not only triathlon, but ultra running in the off season and going from, was it 2001 to 2012?
Yeah,
you did 15?
A couple of injuries in that time, but it wasn't every year, but yeah.
And you did 15 Ironmans during that time? Yeah. So you were on a roll. You were performing well.
It was because you have to qualify in an Ironman to get to Ironman Hawaii. So if you do Ironman Hawaii, you end up doing 2 a year. And I qualified with Mark Allen's coaching. I qualified 5 times for Ironman Hawaii during that time. So I started 2001, started coaching with Mark Allen in 2003, 2004. I qualified. The first year was 2004. So yeah, it just becomes your lifestyle. Like I said, I still swim and bike and run every week. I don't have my set rules. I'm not so rigid about my training schedule, and I don't like to follow a schedule anymore, as we talked about before. But over the years, starting 2001, I was already biking long distance before that and doing shorter triathlons, like a sprint distance. Then I got into Ironman. I thought, okay, I'm doing marathons already, and I'm doing long distance cycling events. Might as well do an Ironman. Just need to start swimming. So then I started doing the triathlon Ironman Canada, and I'm in Seattle, so we drive to Penticton. Beautiful. It's not there anymore. It's a Whistler, but I did that. People just, every year, that's just your routine. You sign up for the next year. Yeah. Or I did Coeur d'Alene Ironman, which is 5-hour drive. So I do either one of those. One year I happen to do both. I don't know why, but just other people are doing it too, so you get sucked into it.
And it was going fine. You were performing well. But then you reported in 2013 where you just completely hit the wall. Tell me about that bike ride, and then what transpired after that to get you on this holistic path.
Yeah, writing my book, Life Nods Race, I had to go back in time because even though it's 2016, the end of the year, that was 3 years ago, and so much has happened, and it was very depressing time because I was getting off my best Ironman Canada time. I PR'd and I came second in my age group. Susan Williams, Olympic swimmer, do you know her? Mm-hmm. She was racing my age group and she almost beat her if I didn't have a bad swim. But so that was my kind of the end of my Ironman Canada race. I was chasing her down all day. And that was a great, amazing race. And Ironman Hawaii was amazing. And then it was just, as I said, did some other races. And then it was just one day. It just felt like overnight. It just couldn't pedal. I was riding a bike, and usually I'm like really good at riding. It was more my strength, and I had nothing. I couldn't even pedal, and it was the weirdest sensation. I just was completely fatigued, and I stopped and had a meltdown side of the road, some tears, and my husband was ahead and our other friend. And I'm like, I can't run. I can't go on. What's wrong with me? And I'm like, go ahead. Because I'm kind of competitive if I'm behind. Uh-huh. So I'm like, just let me go. And I had to make my way home. It was like an hour away from home riding. And I had to, like, how am I going to ride? I can't even pedal. So I had to go down and go into the bike path that's just flat and easy and just find my way home. But there wasn't Uber, I don't think, back then. So that was kind of the beginning of it. Then I had some other incidents, like I was saying, at a retreat, we had wine at an event, and I got, well, it's a long story, it's a whole chapter in my book, but I was sick for 5 days.
Wow.
And it was just like, what is going on?
Your body's falling apart on you.
And I don't really drink any alcohol, but it just hit me so bad. It was crazy. And then I suddenly, one day I was like, oh my God, my body is changing. I'm just from this lean athlete to this blob overnight. So
what did you gain 30 pounds in
30 pounds, like 3 months. Cause they were in Coeur d'Alene Ironman's end of June, and all this kind of started April, May, June. And then it just was probably, I don't ever weigh myself. And I weighed myself. We were at this house in Ironman Coeur d'Alene that we rented for the race weekend. I'm like, there's a scale. I kind of know my clothes don't fit anymore. I'm in fitness. I'm always wearing tight clothing. And you're like, ugh, there's extra grabbage here that I'm not used to, and these rolls in my thighs. And my body was completely changing. My lean muscle was zoop, and my fat was going whoop way up. And it was just awful. And so, of course, you're depressed, and then you're more depressed because you feel like you don't like, as an athlete, you're used to, and in fitness, being strong and lean, and that feels good, and then have your body change is hard.
So I guess you were told this familiar term of adrenal burnout, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis was messed up, and it was likely a cause by this incredibly long duration run of high stress, living, running your business, doing all the Ironmans, and then at a certain point, your brain, obviously on the bike ride, your brain said enough is enough.
Yep.
And
then all accumulated. That just, it's like someone hit you on the head, you hit the wall, like, you're not listening, pay attention. Mm-hmm. You got to start. Mm-hmm. I just didn't see anything happening until just one day. And I'm sure there's things going on, but oblivious. I'm just going to do my routine. This is what I do. This is how I roll. Yeah.
Well, we can override it so easily with our strong will to achieve and accomplish things and go and ignore these subtle signs of fatigue or whatever they are.
Yes. Yeah. And I learned how to do that. So thanks to Professor Tim Noakes. He talks a lot about that. And I, learned a lot from him, the central governor, and that's interesting stuff. But I do believe, I think I proved that it's a fact.
So it's important, I think, for listeners, viewers to realize that you were eating super healthy. You were training sensibly with the best coaches in the world and watching your heart rates and all that. But, if you took a few steps back to the bigger picture, this constantly feeling wired and energized and going, and you report getting to the gym early at 4:30 to do emails for half an hour before your client comes in at 5, and things like that, which seem normal and routine and basically seem badass to a lot of people in this game that want to see how much they can accomplish each day. And it was all working well for you. But there is a cliff, and this is not an uncommon story. I'm glad that you're telling yours and detailing it with the stories in your book and everything. but it's quite common, especially in the endurance scene. There was an article in Outside Magazine called Running on Empty, where the top ultra runners of the world that were winning 100-mile and 100K races all of a sudden vanished from the face of the earth with no known attribution from the medical perspective.
Well, it's funny. So I was at a retreat, this mastermind group I'm in for fitness professionals in February this year. And I had my notebook, and I looked in my notebook where I write notes for a retreat that I wrote 2 years ago before that. So it's 2014, a year after my adrenal burnout breakdown happened. And I wrote in, life is not a race, it's a journey. I wrote notes. And this year, people, you got to share that story, because I think so many people didn't understand what I was going through. Like, even my family, no one really knew what was going on. They're like, oh, I didn't really notice you're heavy. I mean, they didn't know what was going on inside of me, what health issues I had. No one really knew all the changes I made. I mean, it's just this individual, and a lot of it's personal, but I felt like I needed to share my personal experience. Like, I had to share stuff I've never shared with people in a book that everyone can read around the world, because I want to help other people, because I hear a lot of these symptoms and red flags from other people, and they have no idea that they have these issues. Symptoms, just so many people are not sleeping right. They're not eating right. They're stressed out. They get agitated easily. They're very short-tempered. They're impatient. They might be working out too hard. Everyone's into this HIIT training every day, and that's why I train people with heart rate. Like, you're not supposed to do HIIT every day, because it's actually not HIIT. But, we're supposed to walk and go for hikes and relax and spend time with their family. But then there's, we're addicted to phones and social media, and everyone's on, and it's just something that needs to change, and people need a little eye-opener.
So these are the red flags you talk about.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are arguably pleasant, or we get off on that stress and that high intensity workplace or high intensity training. So it does require a little bit of rational thinking to say, hey, maybe I'm immersed in an out of balance lifestyle that I happen to enjoy and thrive on, and I dig it. But it's a high risk situation, and arguably it's compromising your performance. So if you'd been a little more balanced, you might have performed even better. Than qualifying for Kona Hawaii World Championships is a pretty big deal. But I think that if people were slowing down and being more patient, they could probably even get more out of their bodies. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. And our egos don't like to hear this, but it's been proven over and over again. People like Mark Allen, Mike Pigg, the people we talk about in Primal Endurance book, that they slowed down their workouts, they backed off the intensity, and proceeded to improve their fitness.
Yeah, and that's what I said in my book. Mark Allen taught me how to train for triathlons, but he didn't know what I was doing the rest of the day and the rest of the year. So my season was so many months a year, but then, it was me scheduling my day, start at 3:30, 3:45 in the morning, go to nonstop, 7:30. So that's why I call my book Life's Not a Race, that we'd wake up alarm like the gun's going off in a triathlon, and you don't stop moving until your head hits a pillow. And that's kind of how I start the book. It's that, okay, how many people, I don't care if you do Ironman or not, we would all do that until you stop. When I was forced to stop and stop and look at what I was doing, because I didn't have a choice. I couldn't go for a bike ride, and I could not do any more races. I had to cancel everything because I was not capable of doing it.
So listeners, viewers that have a choice right now, and they're embracing this message, they're nodding their head going, that sounds sensible, that sounds good. What are some corrective action they can take that might be a little painful? They might have to lose out on some instant gratification, but will pay off in the long run with beneficial health and improved performance. Yeah,
just last little bit. I think it's people that, why are you doing Ironman? So many people do Ironmans. I don't think, does your life allow you to train for an Ironman?
Wait, did you just ask me why I'm doing Ironman? How could you ask such a thing?
I think that's just such a big thing. I think it's kind of dying down. More people doing other races, but I think a lot of people choose to do a big race. It's a huge commitment. And unless you are able to fit that in your life and then take away other things in your life or reduce time doing other activities, that you're not going to overschedule, because it is a part-time job. So if you already have 2 full-time jobs, home life and your work life, and then you add this in, I coached someone once, consulted with them. They were training, they're working all night, a night shift in hospital as a doctor, and then they would try to fit their training in, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. I'm like, well, you're burning the candles at both ends. So sometimes you have to reassess your lifestyle. If you want to do an Ironman, that's great. I mean, I might do one again, but you have to go, okay, can I cut back on my work hours? Make sure I sleep 7 to 9 hours a night. Am I allowing time for rest days and just chill out? Am I overdoing it? So
I have a favorite wisecrack when people will I'll be at a party or something, and someone will say, hey, you got to meet this person. They just signed up for an Ironman. And I usually say, sorry to hear that. Or if it's a marathon, same thing. Sorry to hear that. Mm-hmm. Why not a half marathon? Yeah. Why not a half Ironman? Because if you think about a 70.3 mile triathlon race, that's extremely long, ultra duration athletic event of many, many hours. Yeah. Why is that not the ultimate distance for the sport? It should be, because the other ones are ridiculous and random. It's 112 miles around the island of Oahu. That's why we all thrive on this. But it doesn't make any sense, because almost everyone on the starting line, I'd say everyone but the top 15 pros and the 15th to 20th pros who are out there walking on the race course, you don't need to do that long of a race either. Go get in shape before you put the pro badge on, man. But listen, the first 15 people, amazing, the world's greatest athletes, they do magnificent athletic feats. Yeah. Same with the Seattle Seahawks, 12th man. But you don't go out and run on the field and try to get in for a few plays. You leave that to the best. And we're doing the same race as the top pros in the world who train all day and are magnificent athletic specimens. But there's no call for most people to go that long duration.
Yeah. And that's, I think, you do a half marathon or just do one Ironman, check off your list. I don't know. I know a lot of people that, they do it like I did year after year, and just that's what you do. You train every summer for Ironman Canada or whatever race you do. And I still have people in our team that I know still race Ironman every year. And you step away from it like, okay, there's so much more. I'm going to Italy. 2 years ago, I just went to Spain. I spent all that money on triathlons. Now I can travel the world.
You went to Spain for the price of a race wheel. Race wheel set. Oh my gosh.
I know, exactly. Yeah. My race wheels, our new race bike, would cost more than my trip to Spain. That'd be 2 trips. And then I started looking like, there's other things in life that I should be doing. Even though I love doing triathlons. I think it's fun, it's exciting, but I don't need to do it every year.
Yeah, it's nice to be immersed in something that you place great importance on. You feel like you're bigger than yourself because you're in a group or you're going to a race with a bunch of other people. But when you step back, you realize, like, did Ironman Canada happen without you last year? Or did they cancel it? It happened without Debbie Potts. That's weird. I'm surprised.
I know. Yeah. I'm losing my reputation as, what's your next race? But I'm like, is that a compliment when people all ask me when your next race? I realize that reputation is not a positive thing, that people know that all you do is do races.
Got anything else going on in your life? Didn't think so. When's your next race?
Life, it's all about racing. So you don't realize that until you're not doing it. You're like, what the heck have I been doing? So
Debbie Potts, thank you for joining us. So we're going to go over to the Whole Athlete podcast. Yes. Absolutely subscribe to that. She has incredible guests, and the topics are very lively, very practical to help you make some instant changes to be more holistic, more healthy. And then the book coming out on Amazon is called
Life is Not a Race. And then eventually we'll have the WHOLEistic Method manual and workbook. Got to get the roadmap workbook to go with it, to go dig deep, figure out your why is key.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Primal Endurance Podcast. Your host, Brad Kearns. Until next time, good luck with your training.
Minimalize the training.
Hi, folks. Mark Sisson here, and I'd like to tell you about my biggest undertaking yet, the Primal Health Coach Program. My mission is to create a global network of primal health coaches to help transform the health and consciousness of our communities into ones of optimal wellness and happiness. Becoming a primal health coach empowers you to take your primal passions to the next level and embark on a career you love, inspiring others to live lives of vitality and lasting wellness. If you dream of a career in health coaching but have been held back by worries, such as the investment of time and money, then I encourage you to hesitate no longer. Health coaching is the fastest growing specialty in all of coaching. And we've created an online education program that allows you to learn from the comfort of your own home and at your own pace. We also have payment plans available, so you can start immediately for just $1 down. The world needs Primal health coaches to provide a blend of ancestral wellness solutions to the modern health crisis. The world needs you. Are you ready to become one of the world's most trusted, experienced, and knowledgeable health coaches? To learn more about this online certification program and to take the first step toward a career you love, visit primalhealthcoach.com and subscribe.